Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Benton City Council meeting. It's January 17th. And I will ask Mr. Hyde to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Hyde. Okay. All right, we'll have a roll call, please.
Councilwoman Wadsworth.
Here.
Councilman Sindretto.
Here.
Councilman Reed.
Here.
Councilwoman Funk.
Here.
Councilwoman Alcazar.
Here.
Okay. Everybody's here. Okay, I'll take a motion on the consent agenda.
Discussion, please, Madam Mayor. This is Sarah.
Okay, which includes our regular council meeting minutes, bills and communications. And would you like to pull something off of the agenda?
No, there's something that's not included. I'm assuming that's what she's bringing up.
Okay,
I have multiple items. So first, the meeting minutes for January 10th are not included. So take that off, please. And I have questions about bills and communications.
we did the minutes. I don't know what happened to them. Margaret? do
They
you have
weren't included and they weren't published on the website.
Okay, and then bills and communications, what else?
She wanted to pull out vouchers and to have a discussion. So at this point, move to pull out vouchers. I second that. And let's discuss them, Sarah. What do you got?
Okay,
Okay, so the last set of checks that was approved last week ended with 32299 claim checks. And now on the first set of bills and communications, they start at 32303. And I'm wondering what happened to claim checks 32300 through 32302. There appears to be 3 from sequence that are not used anywhere that we've approved.
I'll have to go back and look.
Okay,
so this means that we will not be able to pay our bills until February 7th.
No, we can approve bills.
can I
Yeah.
ask, can we ask for follow-up to council via email, Carla, once you figure it out?
Yeah,
Cool, thanks.
can you give me those numbers again, sir?
Yeah, 32300 to 32302.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Is that the only thing you have, Sarah?
That's correct. Thanks.
So then on that note, I make the motion to approve claim check numbers 32303 through 32309 in the amount of $17,220, or excuse me, $17,681.32 on the 17th day of January 2023. And I also move to approve claim check numbers 32310 through 32319 in the amount of $12,011.85 on the 17th day of January 2023.
I'll second.
Okay, and did you get the last one in there? Payroll voucher? and EFTs?
No, I didn't get the very, very last one. It looks like, which is DFTs, and let's vote on that first one.
Okay. All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Sandra, do I?
Wadsworth, aye.
Great eye.
Funk, aye.
Alcazar, aye.
Then I'll make the motion, Madam Mayor, to approve claim check numbers. Wow, there's no numbers here. What is that?
To approve payroll voucher with EFTs.
Are those all just EFTs?
Mhm.
Okay. Move to approve claim check EFTs. In the amount of 33,504.88 on the 17th day of January 2023.
Do I have a
Second,
Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Sandra, do I?
Wadsworth, I.
Reed, I.
Funk eye.
Alcazar, I.
Okay, motion carries.
So we've noticed a couple of those things are missing. Checks, those like this check number that she gave me. Before, I've noticed a couple of times those have been missing. I don't know if there's some sort of transactional thing happening that we're not seeing.
Be in. But I don't,
Okay,
I'll.
thank you.
Okay, moving on then to approval of the agenda. I believe we wanted to add an agenda item, which was another discussion of the fire inspections, how we're going to handle fire inspection. We looked at it several months ago, but then nothing happened. So I don't know where we are. We'll need to start back on that.
So you want to add item I2?
I too.
Madam Mayor, this is Sarah. Can I request a consideration of agenda item addition 2, please?
Yes.
Okay, under regular, I think it would go under regular reports. Given that we're still in the moratorium and knowing that we're making progress on planning, on the parking with the new planner. And we'd like to get out of the moratorium, even though we have more time, combined with the fact that we urgently liked the planner's job description posted once our new planner, outsourced planners have reviewed it. Could we have a standing item for a while that maybe is just overall planning update or an update from the mayor on the status of these items and how they're advancing, if my fellow council members believe that's appropriate. It's probably short term, but
That would probably fall under staff reports. We can add it there.
Yeah, I think we could add that.
super. Thanks. And then I had 2 other points of clarification. One, because of the way the Tuesdays fall this month, do we have a meeting on January 31st?
No.
No, we only
Okay.
have per month, normally, first and third Tuesday.
And then I heard when we were starting this, thank you for that clarification. When we were starting this meeting, that there's going to be some items that were presented that are being passed out that will be emailed to Bill and myself. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That there's items to be discussed?
Yes, they are my preliminary comments on the draft EIS. They're not complete, so there's time, but I need to get them out for review before they get sent in. So if you have any comments on them, if you could please let me know at your earliest convenience.
And are they in our inbox now, or how is that process going to work? Since our fellow council members are looking at them now, I'm assuming they've been emailed to clarify.
I expected you all to be here, so I brought hard copies. They're fresh off the press. So I will email them to you when I get home.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Okay. All right.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second,
Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Sandra, do I?
Wadsworth, I.
Reed's eye.
Funk eye.
Alcazar, I.
Okay, as far as I know, we have no proclamations or announcements. So now the floor is open to visitor comments for non-agenda items. Does anyone want to speak? Okay, hearing none, we will move on then to our regular reports. And do we have any staff reports this evening? Okay. All right, then we'll go to the council committee reports.
I attended the Ben Franklin Transit Board of Directors meeting. It was pretty straightforward. I can't think of anything huge on that agenda. There's a fair study that they're going to do some impact study on it and make sure it doesn't adversely impact different demographics. But that should be coming back out in about the next 6 months for public comment. That's all that really came up.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I attended a meeting with BF Cog and Senator Murray's assistant Raquel. And we discussed raise grants. And it turns out that they felt that the raise process was not going to work well for us. But it was a good discussion, and between Raquel and Megan Hoke, we found a couple of other types of grants. One of them is called an impact grant, and I can't remember the name of the other one, but Megan is going to be looking into some of those for some possibilities of connecting the trails from the bridge all the way into town. From my understanding, from what I was told, it's better to ask for trails rather than sidewalks. So she said, don't ask for sidewalks, you have to ask for walking paths. So, okay, so whatever we have to get, whatever we have to call it. And I also listened to a webinar on a commerce grant, which I didn't think that it was going to be particularly good for us, but I'm going to pass all that information on to Megan.
Oh, it's Megan.
She's doing well. Yeah. She was quite helpful at this meeting. She pointed out that some of these grants, like the RAISE grant, was primarily for not for trucking, but for rail. And that kind of got us off on a tangent on what we could bring rail into to the I-82 project, but that seems like that's kind of a non-starter for us. But I guess it's more focused on rail than truck traffic, and we mainly have the truck aspect. But I think she was very knowledgeable about both of those grants, so hopefully she'll come up with something for us. Okay. Engineers report.
You want to let the sheriff?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think you know
he's
about
not on the
sheriff
list.
report.
yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and council members.
Okay.
Good to see you in person. Be sure to pull that mic up and eat on it there.
All right. So yeah, so I will be reporting for the month of December, and just so everybody knows, I'm Commander Matt Clark for the Sheriff's Office. We did not have any major incidents in Benton City, which is always a good thing to be able to report back. We had 176 calls for service in the city, which is down almost 100 calls for service from the previous year, which we like to see as well. So during all the incidents that we did respond to, we took 17 case reports. Also a good number. It means cases are going down here. We had 5 infractions for the month. And the deputies are just out being seen, driving around, talking with the community members. So things are going exactly the way we want it to go. And we like to report that.
That's great.
So if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to try to answer them.
I don't really have a question, but I found it interesting right there by the school. I drive up towards Legion Heights. Right by the elementary school, I've been passed twice now.
Is that
Like passed.
is that during school hours, or do you have?
No, it wasn't during school hours, but I find it kind of I mean, I'm doing the speed limit like 26, 27. So I'm not even going slower than what the, and I just found it really interesting that people are thinking maybe it's 30 or 35 through there.
Okay, hey, you're trying to think of the name of the road right there.
Angeline,
It's the straight stretch right past this, as you're going up Main Street,
Okay, yeah,
just straight, right by the skate park. So they just passed me.
okay,
So
so.
just out of here, I mean, I don't know what they did. It was
Yeah.
two different vehicles at two different times. Like I said, I just found it a little alarming that people are wanting to go faster than 26, 27 miles an hour.
Right, and yeah, if our deputies are out there and they see that, they're obviously gonna.
Yeah.
Contact those persons that are
But-
doing that. But I'll definitely pass it on to the guys, so they can sit in that
Yeah.
area, we'll sit in that area.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
All
I
right,
think it will help when we get some more crosswalks in with the lights on them. Yeah.
right. Yeah, and we're still putting out our speed sign. So when we get requests for that, we put that out, we put it throughout the county. So if we do see issues with speeding as well, we can throw that trailer out there to help.
I think it was just somebody that was being impatient and didn't want to go the speed limit through town.
Unfortunately, I'd probably agree with you. And if we're sitting there, it could be an expensive lesson for them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
if I had my phone out fast enough, I would have gotten a picture of it, but I didn't.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So the non-emergency number is not staffed 24/7, is that correct?
No, it's staff 24/7. So that you're talking for dispatch, non-emergency dispatch.
Yes.
6280323.
I'd have to look in my phone to see which number it was. We called, we had some people arguing in front of our house, like it was around 11:30 at night. And that was a very unusual occurrence and we were a little concerned. So I remember I looked at my phone and called the non-emergency number and it said that no one was there. And so is there a,
So yeah, so the number is 6280333. That is staff 24/7. What that gives people the ability to do is call dispatch when it's not an emergency.
Mhm.
So it doesn't tie up the 911 lines.
okay,
And if we have that problem, again, I attend they're called LawCAG meetings with dispatch, and I can bring that up if that was the number, in fact, that you
okay,
dialed. So they should be answering them though.
okay. I just have a non-emergency in my phone, so I don't know what the number is.
Yeah, yeah, and I would recommend, even on a situation like that, if you're calling that number and they don't pick up, dial 911, just let them know this is not an emergency, but this is what we're seeing,
Okay,
so.
all right.
All
Thank
right,
you.
And also for everybody, we need to do a better piece as far as getting that number out to our citizens for after hours call out. Cause
And it should go on the website.
something needs to happen because I keep getting phone calls from people going, hey, how do I get a hold of the city after? Here's the number. So we need to get it out so they can see it somewhere.
And that's why I asked too, because I know other people have asked about, if I hear a noise, first thing I do is go on Facebook, because I'm sure somebody else has asked about it. And then there'll be questions, how do we get a hold of the non-emergency? And I'm like, I don't know for sure.
yeah, and
since-
we try to
that would be-
educate people when we go to calls, reference that number. If there's a suspicious person, suspicious vehicle, you can always call that number. Especially at night, we don't really encourage people to go outside and confront people.
Right.
Or that's why we're here. Give us a call and a deputy will go check their area.
I'm out there, buddy.
You're out. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we'll move on to our discussion. Nope, engineers report.
Alan's sitting down. Oh, no, no.
All right.
You don't need me, I'm okay with that.
We do need you, we do.
Okay, so I think you all should have the engineer's report in front of you.
Mhm.
The projects that are in construction are basically pretty much completed. Ninth Street sidewalks, that's all been completed, accepted by the council. At not the last meeting, but the last one in December. And just gonna close out the paperwork for DOT and get DOT and county reimbursements. Hope Lane water line, that is essentially completed. They were just working on a few punch list items. So that should be, we're hoping next meeting brought here for acceptance. 414 9th Street. Everything's been done. I think we explained this last time. There's just a few things that need to be done, but it has to be weather permitting. So that'll be finished out this spring. I'm guessing into February, beginning of March. I did have one question, Madam Mayor, and that's with the planners. Because we're having some things come in and just wanted to make sure we're I guess going about things the right way and the right process. So like on one of our projects, they're required to submit a SEPA list. So should we be contacting the planners and going through, have them run through the whole process?
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to involve them now if you have any questions at all.
Okay,
And we should let her know that you're going to be calling. You have access to her now, right, Jenny? And
Yeah, I sent Ellen's information.
oh,
yeah.
you sent it.
and
in.
I believe it's Brandon who is going to be doing the day-to-day stuff.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, okay, I just want to make sure because there's a couple things coming up that
Yeah,
we need
she's
to,
going to get hit.
okay. So projects and design and planning. Dinah and Dale, again, we're still waiting for the surveyor to complete the final drawing for submittal with the county. And then once that's done, then we'll finish out our final plan. But they're using what we came up with after talking with the irrigation district on the relocation or realignment. So they're using that alignment for that boundary line adjustment. So I just want to make sure it moves forward before we start doing anything.
Mhm.
And so we're going to meet this week with Public Works so they can review, give us their comments. And then we'll final out the plans. River Access Park. Or Sportsman's Park. We're waiting for ecology to schedule on-site meeting to review this park and 14th Department of Fish and Wildlife Park. I don't know what that's called.
We call it the fishing area.
The fishing area off 14th.
I think that's what it says, fishing area.
Oh. But we want to meet with them and go over any issues that they might have before we try to start planning anything out there at either park.
We mentioned a little bit about that today in the FEMA meeting, and I'll talk to you about that.
Okay. Okay.
In a minute.
Let's see, I'm just gonna kind of skip down the disc golf course. We're waiting for the meeting with ecology, and I don't know if you guys spoke about that today at all.
We did not talk about the disc golf course.
Okay. And so I think we're gonna be having a follow-up meeting for specific project stuff with them at some point. I know, does anybody have any other questions on that page? I was just gonna skim through that. On page 2, it's the other projects. These are, we don't have job numbers for them yet. The TAP, the pedestrian crossings or PedXing, and the Riverfront Trail, both of those are TAP funded through DOT. Have an email into a planner through local programs in Yakima. And I talked with BF Cog earlier in December, and they said it's strictly through DOT. Before, BF Cog had helped kind of go through the process, but they're saying just contact DOT directly. So figuring out what paperwork we need to send into them, and before, so we can get those 2 projects moving forward. And then citywide chip seal. There's a couple forms that we need to fill out for TIB. and one's a funding status. And that's showing that we would have, it's $21,153 for match. So that's 5%. We want to make sure, I think, talking with Sherry, I think that's been put in a line item in the budget. And so, based on that, then we can have the mayor sign that form and then also agreement with TIB. And then there's several other private developments that we've kind of been looking over. I don't know. I can go through and describe some of those, or unless you guys have questions, I can.
Has there been any more discussion? I heard that there's gonna be maybe a Dutch Brothers going in next to Sunmart out there on the other side of 82.
Oh, I haven't heard anything on that.
You haven't heard anything about it?
No.
Just
It's the
curiosity.
rumor mill.
Rumors.
Which sounds like rumors to me, but you
You never know.
Yeah,
There was that privately held spot right there on the point.
Mhm.
Maybe that's where he's doing it that way through that owner.
Well, I would have think, based on when that rumor started, which is about 8 months ago,
Oh.
it would have already seen some movement up there, so.
possibly.
um,
And this, of course, unless they're talking with Sun Market about land purchase or something, I don't know.
yeah.
I don't want to start any more rumors, so.
I was gonna say, just asking a simple question with the yes or no answer.
I think somebody mentioned that they saw vehicles up there or something, and that's what got it all started.
You don't want
so,
to feed the beast.
Right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, awesome report. Thank you.
Okay. yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. So now we can talk about the FEMA. Today at 2:00, Dan and I met with Fish and Wildlife, FEMA and their consultant. And who else was there? Oh, yeah, I said Fish and Wildlife, right? And Ecology and the state engineer. So we had quite a group. We had the regional manager for ecology, and we also had the statewide manager. Coordinators, I think they call them for FEMA. And all in all, I think it was pretty positive. Dan has some notes, but just as a general statement of they do not want any exemptions in the floodplain ordinance. But she left the door open and she felt that we could cover this with a procedure on how we were going to handle the no rise calculation. So they're going to get us some procedures, and then we can either put that procedure in the admin code or just in a procedural book. I'll defer to someone else.
We could put it in the ordinance if we wanted to.
Oh,
It would
okay.
be a bad idea to do it, because that way people would only go one place if they had that type of project.
Okay.
Excuse me, Dan, could you pull the mic up closer to you?
Apologize, I was saying that this is also something that could be plugged into the ordinance. And the advantage of that would be if somebody had a project that fit within that, they'd only have to go one place to find the procedures and
Yeah.
in the process.
And basically, I think she wanted it to be an administrative thing. That someone here would basically decide whether or not it had to have a no rise calculation, but in the end, they were pretty much all in agreement that the sign shouldn't have to have one. Although they brought up the 14th Street when we talked about adding the canoe boat launch kind of thing there. They were kind of, oh, do we need a no rise for that boat launch? And then they kind of said, well, maybe this could be administrative too. So it's the kind of thing where we're just going to have to work with them back and forth and give them our opinion why we think it shouldn't be a no rise calculation. But Dan has some thoughts on this as well.
Well, what I was going to say, first of all, and the mayor already addressed this, we were a little bit discouraged that they were reluctant, maybe that's probably kind, in terms of our request that they work with us to come up with some exemptions. They didn't want any exemptions, even what I'm going to suggest might be the things that everybody probably would agree should be exempt. They didn't want to include that in the ordinance. And their reasons for that were that they thought people could push the envelope in connection with each individual thing. And maybe that makes sense. I don't know. But the encouragement came out of what started off a little bit discouraging is that we ended up, I think, reaching toward common ground in that the one thing that the ordinance should do is to make sure that it includes what's expected of developers, and the burden essentially is on the developer to identify what their project is and also identify why that would not violate their restrictions on the limitations and the things that we wanted to seek exemptions for. Let them show us why. Now, that also does another thing to us. It gives us fortification for reasonable decisions. And once we've got engaged in that process where we are engaging in a review of what they have given us, then our justification for what we approved would be determinable. It'd be documentable. And those types of things seemed to be something that we could work with. The other thing is we need to make sure that developers need to also understand the limitations that they would find themselves in terms of potentially having to go through multiple processes at the same time. A shoreline permit might be one thing, but the Army Corps of Engineers has a different process. And sometimes you end up getting to the point where you need multiple application processes and multiple application processes going on at the same time, which could be a very big challenge for some developers. But hopefully what it does is it gives us a tool where we can all, the state and the federal folks as well, can all agree that some things do not trigger a full-blown SEPA, full-blown EIS.
And a no rise.
Right.
This is Sarah. May I ask a question?
Yes.
It sounds like a really a better outcome and at least some movement. So thank you for taking the time and effort, first and foremost, of getting all these right people in the right room. Who owns drafting the ordinance as a next step?
Well, I think Dan is going to take the ordinance is drafted. And that has been drafted by FEMA and Ecology for some time. I just didn't want to sign it. No, right.
Let me rephrase the procedure or the administrative piece for the exceptions. How do we manage getting that part in place?
Dan and I are going to look at that, and Ecology is going to send us some sample procedures that they had in the past.
Okay.
And go back and forth with Ecology and FEMA to decide what to do next, if they like our suggestions or not. So it's going to be a little bit of an iterative process.
So besides the developers that Dan was talking about, which is really important, I mean, a big part of the discussion is land that the city is using that's fish and wildlife land. So it'd be, I think, really important, like in the case of these signs, to consider that as well. So that if there's a process the city needs to go through for documenting stuff and their decisioning around it, it just gets done.
That was the primary reason for the meeting.
Okay.
I didn't have any problem with doing a no rise in the city limits. I'm just uncomfortable with the amount of money it's going to take our citizens to do one.
For sure. So,
but no, they basically said the sign was okay, that would, but there are things we can do, like moving into 14th Street. We can orient the signs parallel to the flow path as opposed to at right angles to it or such. And then that way it doesn't cause as much disruption or the possibility of pulling it out and that sort of thing. So Also increasing the conveyance was discussed. And here's one that I thought was really good is that Fish and Wildlife brought up that if you have a lot of gravel, you could make more channels. And I'm thinking if we had more removal of some gravel, we could put our irrigation system in there and put the grass on top of it.
There you
So
go.
it didn't seem to be too negative about taking it out or redistributing it. But that's kind of iffy. We'd have to take it one step at a time.
So what are that's all sounds really positive. And it sounds like replacing the sign at Sportsman's Park for safety for citizens and other users of that park related to the Yakima River and dangers and hazards is just fine with everybody. What does the city need to do to memorialize that understanding so the sign can be put up?
That's what this procedure is all about.
Okay.
And then on top of that, yes, the city has to permit anything. I think you knew that. So we are the permitting, even for ourselves, we have to permit ourselves now to do anything in the floodway. And if we have a permit that we decide not to do a no-rise calculation, we have to put, for example, that sign would say replacing a 4-foot sign with a 6-foot sign. The floodplain is this wide at this point. Some of the stuff I did earlier, kind of a simple analysis to show that there would be no effect at the downstream measuring point. And put that all in the permit together. So when they come for their next community action visit, it will all be there and they're covered and we're covered.
Super. So the update then for people using Sportsman's Park is progress to get approval to replace the sign is being made. And it doesn't sound like the same opposition exists that we've been facing for the last year plus, but there's not a definitive timeline because there's still more work to be done with the various parties to get a procedure in place so a sign can't be constructed. And it can be at some point in the future. There's a lot of administrative steps that still need to be taken.
I think we just have to write a permit for that because they basically agreed that that sign was not, a no-rise was not needed, but I defer to Dan on that question if we should move without the procedure or not.
Well, I think if I could suggest, based upon what it sounded like they were telling us, if we documented why we made certain calls, we should be safe. And again, one of the issues that we want to make sure, just like any other developer would be, we want to make sure that we aren't going to put ourselves in a position of potential liability if along comes FEMA and they disagreed with what we've done, or Department of Ecology and they've disagreed with what we've done. So we want to make sure we can document our reasons. I think it shouldn't be a hard thing to do, but it's going to be something we have to do whether or not the rest of the procedures are done.
Okay.
Who owns actioning, writing the permit then at the city?
That would be Jenny. And the other thing that we discovered, I neglected to say that Jenny was in this meeting, but Jenny was there with us. But right after the meeting, she went and looked at the pre-development meetings, and there's really nothing in there right now about the floodplain. Well, there says floodplain, I think, but it doesn't say some of the other things that need to be in there. So we will be modifying that development agreement as well.
Cool. So coming back to specifically the sign, and I apologize to my fellow council members, but I just really want to be clear for the safety of citizens, even though there's not a lot of people out kayaking in the water in the winter, that from a sequencing standpoint, at the recommendation of the mayor and council, a permit and documentation simply need to be completed, and Jenny will do that. So we're talking about weeks, not months anymore, and that's it. And as a parallel path, the longer term procedure is going to be developed, which Dan is going to help the city with. Are those the action items?
That's correct.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate the clarification and look forward to receiving confirmation that the permanent documentation's been completed to move forward with putting up signs for the safety of the community.
Okay, I'll have Jenny talk to you about what she needs for that.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Then we were also now unless anybody has some discussion on FEMA. Okay, the next thing is the fire inspections, how we want to move forward with that. I know we had picked around some numbers, raising the fee, and I think we had kind of settled on 100. Some of that was kind of what I'm remembering.
Looks like Jenny has.
Okay, please.
She's jumping out of her seat.
Jenny McCombs, City of Benton City. So the last time we had spoke, there was discussion about, accommodating the fees, changing them up to accommodate that fire inspection. So, we're in the new year and need to get these fire inspections done. So kind of just wanted to bring it to the table again so I can make sure we're on the same page. I know JB and myself, because he's the one that actually the business licenses come into. And in the past, that's how it was done. People would come from the front door. I know we changed our process to the state. And then they'd be required to get their fire inspection before their business license was issued. So now we've discussed when they come in online from the state that we can put them in a pending status and work together, and then go out and do a compliance. You have, 10 days to get your fire inspection. I'm almost to the point, like why don't we just charge the $75 too?
And that's where we were at prior, right? Was the $75.
It costs $75 for the fire inspection through Northwest Codes.
Okay.
Yeah. The problem was in the past, the city was paying for that.
Right.
Right. So then we had this transition and how to transition that. But it's kind of, yeah.
I thought we agreed that there was going to be a change to the website and we were going to collect that $75 from the website as part of an occupancy issue.
I believe there was, and there was yeah.
And that hasn't taken place, or?
Because I
No.
thought we had already had this discussion about.
Yeah.
We had, there was
Back-
different prices. Yeah.
they're
Even
back
for
years
renewals.
ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that was with Rebecca.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's,
Yep.
there you go.
It was, yeah.
And she said that we were gonna go ahead in that way, but I assume that got lost in translation.
It did. And that's kind of where I was at. Oh my gosh, let's bring this, make sure we are.
Well, it looks like Bill might add something to this, that he took himself off.
Yeah, if I remember right, we'd have to go back in the meeting minutes. I'm pretty sure we discussed the pricing and everything, occupiable businesses versus publicly occupiable businesses, public, closed to the public businesses, that kind of stuff. I was pretty sure we got all the prices and stuff down. If memory serves me right, we had a procedural issue with the number of categories or criteria that the state would allow us in their website.
Correct.
Well, I thought we worked that out because I thought there was 5 or 6 we could have, and we only had 2, and we were just going to add the third one. And if my memory serves me, and not saying it does, I think it was $150 we were charging for a primary license with a fire inspection, and then it was a renewal license at $125 with a fire inspection. And then we just had ones that were not, and those were 75, 55 or something like that. Is that right?
And it's definitely in the minutes between the month of June. The discussion started in May in earnest, but between the month of June and July, I think every single step had been gone through, and it's definitely should be easy to locate in the minutes.
Yeah, I do believe so too.
Well, that sounds good. I just want to make sure we initiate it since
Yeah.
it had not been, and
I
we
think-
were all on the same page.
bringing
I-
it to the next council, I think would be great, because I think it's something that we can definitely take a vote on and get it.
I think we already did.
That's what I
I
thought.
think we already did too.
Yeah.
This is where I'm saying,
That's
I
what I thought
can't
too.
tell you to
So-
do, it. The mayor has to give that authorization, but go forth on my behalf.
I
The
was gonna
council
say,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Take-
I
I'll
guess I have a different question. This is Sarah, since if in fact, when the meeting minutes are reviewed, our memories are correct and this was approved by council, I would have a different question. Does the city have an onus then to go back and back charge businesses for the last 6 months?
I don't think, if the failure is on our behalf, I don't think that's appropriate.
I was
So
gonna say,
Good.
I agree.
just get it
That makes
resolved.
sense.
On what's there, as long as the mayor's in agreement.
So I will ask Margaret to please review those minutes and see if you can find them for us, and we can move forward on that.
Thank you.
I'll be glad to.
Okay. Anything else on that topic? Okay. Then we'll move for items for approval. And the first one I wanted to discuss is the Horse Heaven Hills DEIS comments. And what I brought to you is not totally complete, but it's taking a lot of time to put this into the format that they explained to us last week. And I have drafted some things now, and I would like you to look through them. We have 5 comments. And let's see, the only one that I haven't taken a shot at right now, and some of them, number 4 is almost complete, but there are other aspects of this best management practices that I wanted to bring in to item 4. And then item 6 is to reserve the right to comment due to the short comment period. The document is over 460 pages. And as you know, they brought it out right before Christmas, December 19th. And it's due at the end of this month. So this is the last council meeting prior. And what my plan is to get any comments back from you as soon as possible. And then I do have some fill in the blanks I'm going to need on the types of aircraft. And right now I've just got it listed as fixed wing and helicopters. There is a graphic of the fire at Anilare. And it does show a plane, but you really can't see it in this. Anyway, I have a newspaper article that supports that.
Madam Mayor, if I can add to that.
Yes.
I spoke with the assistant fire management officer and another firing specialist over the last 2 days. We've had pretty extensive conversation about this. They said not only they're concerned for their aircraft, and this is kind of along with their procedures. For all purposes, they try and avoid any kind of roadways, interstates, and residential neighborhoods. They don't fly directly over them if at all possible. Their concerns are, as you know, you think a helicopter is carrying 700 gallons of water in a bucket below it, and something happens in a large amount of water, or a piece of that bucket or an item falls out of the helicopter. They were more concerned about flying over urbanized areas and highways because they have to detour away from the windmills, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So if you look at McBee Grade or even up and down Badger Canyon, this is actually taking them from flying over the wheat fields. Now it's forcing them to go over the urbanized areas and the highway.
No, that's not good.
So I do have an email into the air management for Department of Natural Resources, who is pretty much overall in charge of all fire suppression activities when it comes to aircraft. but the gentleman has not called me back yet. He's over on the west side, so I'm not sure if it's a vacation or, you know, he's busy and, you know, this is kind of not a priority for him or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But I would be more than happy to relay that information back to you when he sends it.
Perfect. And maybe we can send it to him to review.
Correct.
Comment. I did add a couple of things. Back in the olden days, I used to be a pilot myself. And it can be very unnerving, especially like if you're flying through the smoke. If you know there's a turbine there and you can't see it.
Correct. Yep.
And at the height of them, probably you'd run into one of the blades, possibly, but I don't know what altitude you normally fly, but it looks like it's fairly low altitude flight. And you'd be looking at the ground primarily, trying to aim your water on the fires. And any kind of distraction, like if those strobe lights are on, to me, you could mistake that for a hotspot. You could get disoriented. You could assume that was a fire truck. When it's dark and in the middle of the night and you're in an emergency situation like that, you don't need those kind of distractions. So there are a number of factors that come into this, and everything else. So I'd like to beef that up as much as possible and even get the type of aircraft that are being used.
Yeah, I can get all that information for you.
Okay. Well, you'll have what I've got. I'll go home and email this to you and Sarah. And
Perfect.
at your earliest convenience, if you could get back comments to me, I'd appreciate it.
Definitely.
We do have till the end of the month, but I would like the attorneys to review it as well before it goes out.
Yep.
Okay.
And then I would also like to add, I know I've mentioned it a couple different times about reaching out to Scout Clean and having them come give a presentation due to the fact we're hearing the one-sided conversation. We have not allowed or invited the developer to come and at least have the ability to answer some of these questions that are continuing to be put out there. So I once again would like us to reach out to Scout Clean and have them have the ability to give a presentation and allow us to ask these direct questions to the developer.
Okay, the issue is that that comment period ends.
That's fine. I still think it would be beneficial to
Okay.
give the citizens the ability to listen to both sides and let them make their own opinion. When you're only feeded one-sided conversation, you tend to lean towards that conversation because you didn't hear the other aspect of it. And I have mentioned before, I think it would be really beneficial to give the citizens the ability to hear both sides. And so once again, I would like to have Scout Clean come and give a presentation and we're able to ask these hard questions and be able to come up with our own decision moving forward versus just hearing the one side.
Okay, but that decision has to go in by the end of.
I get it, but I don't think this is gonna be the end of your guys' conversation when it comes to Scout Clean and putting up wind turbines. So I think this will still be beneficial for us to ask these questions when it comes down versus just pulling stuff off their webpage, adding different things to what we think it might look like, what it might look like, and actually have the developer in here asking or answering our questions that we may have. I know it's too late, obviously, past conversation about having them come in was falling on deaf ears.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
once again, I'm asking, and I am more than happy to reach out to Scout Clean and have them come in
Okay,
and at least address the council and give us their presentation.
okay.
Thank
If you
you.
would like to do that, please.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, this is Sarah. May I have the floor?
Yes, you may.
So when you I have a couple specific questions, but from an administrative perspective, knowing that we're not having another meeting this month and the fact that in the packet published to our citizens, we've included City of Kennewick's council cover sheet. The final letter that gets put forward, I understand needs a motion and approval by council to sign. Is that correct?
For the comments,
Yeah, that's what City of Kennewick did. That's what it looks like. I authorized the mayor to sign a letter
that
to,
was a specific letter to have the water supply used.
Just for the water supply. Okay, cool. So I wanted to just make sure I was right there. And then if I stick with the water supply, then from this letter, thanks for the clarification. Does Benton City have anything in our code that's similar to
Yes.
Kennewick?
We can give the water, and I guess I should send this to Alan to answer, but we can do water within our city limits. And I think there is some instances where we have run sewer outside, but not outside of our UGA, right?
So do we have a similar letter we're going to be putting, the city plans to put together, like the city of Kennewick for
They
a similar
They
situation?
have not asked us.
Got it.
for-
Okay. Is
But-
it interesting they haven't asked us for water considering how many are going in the Benton City area? Where are they going to get the water from? Guess
They
it's not a
have
problem.
they have two other water suppliers here, Oasis, and what is the other one? They have an artesian well out on the other side of the highway, which would probably be more attractive.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for those clarification. I just wasn't sure if there was something else we were missing from the information provided in our packet.
Okay, I guess I didn't mention that in here, but basically that was a request to, they have to clean the turbines and whatnot, and I would think they need water suppression data, information or supplies as well to keep the wind down, to keep the dust suppression down. Do they normally have construction practices like
Yes,
that?
they have to. I mean, the Clean Air Authorities.
Yeah.
Water or, excuse me, dust abatement,
Mhm.
classifications or the risk being fined.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're gonna be after water somewhere, I'm sure. For initial development.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, I'll be looking for some feedback on this and hopefully get your agreement through the iterative process here. If there are changes that you want seen or something else added, you can let me know.
Okay.
All right. Is Hosea? I don't see his name.
Yeah, he's maintenance supervisor, dude.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm here.
okay. Purchase of miscellaneous water fittings and parts.
Yeah, so basically we're just looking to get our inventory stocked up for the new year here. So Sergio, the maintenance lead, went ahead and did a inventory on our shop supply for copper fittings for water meters, etc. Repair parts, repair vans and stuff like that. And then he also did inventory on our two tool trucks. And that's the list he came up with, so we're just asking for approval for inventory.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Is the purchase of these, so great job, Jose, working on getting the inventory completed with your team, and important to be working ahead to not run out of parts. We really appreciate that. That helps everyone. Are these items budgeted for?
I think we usually just it gets pulled out of my understanding is that it gets pulled out of the water fund. And then any parts that we purchase that are intended for sewer gets purchased out of the sewer fund. If there's a specific line item for that, I'm not 100% sure. I think you might know the answer to that better than I do.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I'd like to request that following City Council's unanimous support of hiring a finance clerk and funding that position in the second half of 2022, that you consider directing staff to fill out these yellow sheets with department, fund, budget or not, and expenditure information like they used to be filled out. I think it's a great opportunity to improve fiscal responsibility, transparency, and ownership with existing and old staff.
Okay.
We good?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Knowing that there is probably a line item for miscellaneous supplies that I think is a little less than this. We can make budget adjustments to cover that cost, but I'll make the motion to approve the purchase of miscellaneous water fittings and parts through Corn Main for a total of $4,470.71, which includes sales tax.
Second,
Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Sandra, do I?
Wadsworth, I.
Great eye.
Funk, aye.
Alpazar, I.
Thank
Okay,
you.
motion carries.
Thanks, Jose.
All right. Let's see. I think that's our last item
It is.
and so with that, unless there's any discussion, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 I.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Miss you. You guys